has the best game plan against other Delver decks, because True Name Nemesis, very challenging for most Delver decks to beat or remove from the table once it resolves. And Stoneforge Mystic's very potent as well. So if you're looking to play a Delver deck with a good game plan for the mirror match, I think Jeskai Delver is the way to do it.
Round number 2 is going to start off with a Tundra and a Ponder here from Fear. Fear will keep with his Ponder, drawing another Ponder, and pass that turn back over to Mondello, who will draw a card. Spell Pierce is what he's picked up for the turn.
Now, the edge that a deck like Temur Delver has in this kind of matchup is often Delver mirror matches are literally just about getting lands into play. And that's the big fight, is over Stifle and Wasteland and so forth. And Temur Delver plays that game plan better than any other deck because it's lower to the ground in terms of its mana needs, and it plays a full play set of Stifles, usually, Jake is doing that here, alongside with Wasteland. So a way for Jake to beat True Name Nemesis is just prevent Harlan from ever getting to 3 mana or have a daze in the event that Harlan gets the 3 mana and close out the game the following turn. Those kind of sequences.
That's the big plan. As you mentioned, it is very important for Mondello to keep True Name Nemesis off of the table, as it's very powerful in the matchup. Copy of Delver Secrets here from Jake.
Yeah, Delver can fly over, and Jake has 4 copies of Lightning Bolt and 2 Fort Bolts, so he may be able to burn out Harlan, but attacking on the ground, he can't do it once True Name Nemesis is in play.
Delver does resolve, so no daze there for Fear. No Force of Will either. Doesn't look like his hand has an answer just yet. It is a little bit Wasteland heavy, which isn't a bad thing. Gonna go after a land there. Take care of the Tropical Island, just pass the turn back with Spell Pierce at the ready. Mondello will take a look at the top card for Delver. Does not turn it over. Picked up a copy of Volcanic Island. He'll serve for 1 in just a moment.
And it's usually unorthodox to see someone Wastelanding in that spot where the other player has a threat in play. Usually you want to use Wasteland to leverage an advantage when you're out in front. But if Harlan's got nothing else going on, there is a chance that Jake just doesn't have more lands in his hand. Temur Delver runs very land light. There's only 18 lands in the deck, 4 of which are Wastelands. And so Harlan may be rolling the dice and hoping that Jake just can't function without that land in play.
Looks like the follow-up is going to be a copy of Nimble Mongoose. So Mondello is building a board presence here while Fear is trying to get set up.
And this is sort of the worst case scenario for Harlan, given the Wasteland play the previous turn, is Jake following up with a land and another threat. He was really hoping, in an ideal world, Jake doesn't have another land. And if Jake does have a follow-up, that it wouldn't be another threat. It would be a cantrip or something like that.
And you see Fear's hand now. He's pretty land heavy. A lot of fetch lands over there. There is a copy of True Name Nemesis in hand, also a Ponder. One of those lands is a Wasteland, so he could tag that Tropical Island if he'd like to and really try to set Mondello back as far as mana is concerned, but he's got to find an answer to this Delver because it's going to flip eventually.
It's awkward. This is kind of a choose your own adventure. Harlan can keep up the Wasteland plan and try to cantrip into answers, or he can make his land drops and get to True Name Nemesis, but he can't do both because using Wasteland sets him further and further behind for True Name Nemesis. So if he ends up deviating here, which you see here, he's pondering and playing a Scalding Tarn, so no intent on Wastelanding this turn. It means that Wasteland you saw on the second turn is really setting Harlan back, not Jake.
Ponder is looking at a Force of Will and a Brainstorm. There's also a Spell Pierce in there too. None of those cards seem terribly helpful given the situation.
I mean, Force of Will is sort of attractive if Harlan's plan next turn is to try to just push True Name Nemesis into play and then hope that he finds an answer to the Delver of Secrets.
Swords or a Bolt.
Right. So none of those cards are great, but I think that Brainstorm is just a generally powerful card, and Force of Will here is nice if Harlan's plans just try to get True Name into play next turn.
Well, looks like he's going to keep with Ponder. He will take a Brainstorm. He'll pass that turn back over to Mondello. Mondello's going to check for Delver of Secrets. It is flipping. Force of Will is a big reveal there. That'll be Jake's draw.
Yeah, huge deal. It's so bad now for Harlan, who is trying to play towards True Name Nemesis. You already don't like tapping out for that card against a deck with Daze, and now he knows he's playing against Force of Will for sure, and maybe more disruption beyond that.
Harlan going to sacrifice the Scalding Tarn before drawing that Force of Will. Do you like the shifting game plan here?
Well, you know, at this point, seeing Force of Will in hand, I think that just trying to resolve True Name Nemesis is too hard to do. And also, he's still facing down Insectile Aberration. So at this point, Harlan might say, okay, what I need to do instead is Brainstorm into cheap removal spells. But this has not been a very good opening here for Harlan, in part because he's had to pivot his game plan a couple spots.
Yeah, it's just he's kind of had to swing back and forth a little bit about what he's wanted to do, given what Jake has presented on the table.
I appreciate the roll of the dice of the Wasteland on the second turn, but given the way the game is shaped up, I bet Harlan wishes he could have taken that back.
Sure.
Because Jake has played against that Wasteland much better than Harlan has been able to capitalize on it.
There's a Brainstorm, picked up a Wasteland, a Delver, and a Spell Pierce. No bolts, no swords here. This deck is actually, as you mentioned, really, really good against other Delver decks, but part of the reason it's so good is because of Lightning Bolt and Swords able to contain Delver of Secrets, and he hasn't found any answer to do that just yet.
If Harlan's spells are able to resolve, he has the better spells for sure in the matchup. Stoneforge Mystic, very powerful, True Name Nemesis. He's got a lot of cheap removal spells. Swords of Plowshares is a great card, but that's the operative thing. He has to be able to get them to resolve, and he hasn't found them. And the True Name Nemesis that he has been playing to up until this point, he knows is not good because Jake just revealed a Force of Will.
And normally the ace in the hole in the matchup. There's a land for the turn, gonna sacrifice. And there's a Tundra. Heck, Fear even has one main deck copy of Pyroblast this weekend.
Yep. But for those of you who do not watch a lot of Legacy, you are seeing Brainstorm plus fetch lands. It's the defining interaction of the format.
Absolutely.
It's incredibly powerful, and also knowing how to navigate those kind of spots, how to order your spells in such a way, how to give yourself the most looks at a particular card you're trying to find. That's a huge part of the gameplay of the format.
Delver Secrets was the play there for Fear. I'll pass the turn back over to Mondello, who picked up a Stifle for the turn. You have to imagine if Harlan gets the opportunity to trade here with Nimble Mongoose, he may take it, since it's not, again, terribly difficult for him to get Insight Calibration off the board when you've got 4 bolts, 3 swords only in his main deck, and then a Pyroblast. Nimble Mongoose is tough to get off the table, though. And we'll see if Mondello even wants to attack with the Nimble Mongoose.
Yeah, Jake might feel like, I can't get to threshold this turn, but in a turn or two I can. Now the problem there is that by that point, Harlan's Delver has probably flipped, and then it's a 3-2 anyway, which could trade with Nimble Mongoose. But I think Jake's going to give himself a little more time to try to flip the Delver, or just draw a Lightning Bolt to answer the Delver in the event that Harlan's able to flip it.
Harlan going to check with his Delver. It is not flipping. It's just a Tundra.
And that's the best case scenario for Jake here, as he gets another 3 points of damage uncontested with the Insight Calibration next turn. And if he can get a bunch of cards in his graveyard, I mean, he's only got 3 right now, but there's a Polluted Delta in play. Not inconceivable he gets 7 cards, and then the Nimble Mongoose is eligible to attack as well. And that's the thing that's causing Harlan some pause here, is he really doesn't want Jake to get to threshold, assuming that Harlan's True Name Nemesis doesn't resolve. And if Harlan picks a fight here and tries to get True Name into play, it's likely Jake just dumps a bunch of counter spells into his graveyard, and then that's the worst case scenario for Harlan.
Yeah, then Mongoose gets big. Then
Yep.
life is trouble. Here's a True Name.
Now, Harlan's hand doesn't allow him to do anything else. He just kind of has to play this and hope it's good. But there is some risk here that Jake is able to counter this and then get to 7 cards in his graveyard, and then Harlan's in a ton of trouble, even if the Delver Secrets on his side flips the next turn.
At the very least, it presents a real test here for Mondello.
Yep.
And given the situation here for Fear, he needs to present something that makes Mondello move from what he's doing. Now, Jake is reaching here for a Force of Will, unsurprisingly, so he will play Force of Will. He's going to remove Force of Will to that.
If we saw anything from the other side of the table in round 1, the Miracles player, you can't take it with you.
Nope.
You just got to cast the stuff in your hand and try at a certain point, and that's the spot that Harlan got himself into.
Mondello will draw. Picked up a copy of Brainstorm, always a big draw.
Huge here, as this means it'll be very easy for Jake to get to 7 cards in his graveyard, most likely, and he gets a lot of manipulation over his hand. And he's picked up a 4-bolt to boot, which can answer the Delver Secrets. Just a huge draw, Brainstorm in that spot.
Yeah, Tarmogoyf too. Some really, really nice cards off of that Brainstorm there for Mondello. He even has a Polluted Delta in play, in case he just wants to shuffle everything away. Former Legacy Open champion is Mondello last year during Season 3 of the Open Series with Charlotte Soltai in Washington, D.C. Very familiar with the format is Jake. He's made a switch over to a different deck this particular weekend. Got a win in round number 1. Certainly looking good here for game number 1 of round 2.
And I think right now, the one card that's probably on the top of Jake's list to worry about is Batterskull. There's probably, one copy in the deck, so he's got to make sure that he has an answer to it, or he can close out the game before Harlan can get to it.
Even though he hasn't seen Stoneforge Mystic yet, these two players are pretty familiar with one another. They're a lot of the same tournaments. So it wouldn't surprise me if he knows that Fear is playing Jeskai Delver and does have access to a Batterskull and Umezawa's GT and 4 copies of Stoneforge Mystic. Fork Bolt is the spell that is being played by Mondello. In response, Fear did sacrifice his Misty Rainforest, but in response to that, Mondello is sacrificing his Polluted Delta. Perhaps we'll have a Stifle here.
Yep, I think that's what we're getting to right now, and that's really good news for Jake if it resolves, because it means Batterskull is no longer something you have to worry about. Harlan doesn't have enough mana, even if he makes a land drop next turn.
No Stifle here. And just be fetching in response. Volcanic Island, Fear will search up. Mondello does have a Spell Pierce in hand. Fear going to play his Spell Pierce on the Fork Bolt. Looking to counter that spell. Mondello will counter back with his own Spell Pierce. So Fork Bolt will resolve. Delver will take 1. Harlan will take 1. And he'll take more than 1 from this attack.
This line of play also answers a Batterskull, as Jake can simply fly over for the kill next turn.
Swords of Plowshare is the draw. Fear down to 4. He's conceding this game. Jake Mondello is going to win game number 1 here over Harlan Fear. Teamer Delver is up a game over Jeskai Delver. As we turn our attention to the sideboard, we will start with Fear and his 3 Meddling Mages, his 2 Pyroblast, 2 Rest in Peace, and then a bunch of singletons in Pithy Needle Flusterstorm, Graph Digger's Cage, Wear Terror, Vendilion Click Council's Judgment, True Nemesis, Jace the Mind Sculptor.
So the most important card, I think, for the Harlan side of the table here is his 2 copies of Rest in Peace. Teamer Delver is a very graveyard-centric deck, and once you slow it down with Rest in Peace, it gives Harlan the time to leverage his more powerful late-game cards like True Nemesis and Stoneforge Mystic and so forth. I think to that end, you may see cards like the additional True Nemesis and the Council's Judgment come in as just good, powerful, catch-all kind of cards. The risk there is that if Jake's on his whole Wasteland Stifle plan, you have more 3-mana spells in your deck. I think the 2 copies of Pyroblast come in here as well.
What do we see on the other side of things?
2 copies of Rough Tumble, a Sylvan Library, a Pithy Needle, a Dismember, a Blue Elemental Blast, a Flusterstorm, an Ancient Grudge, a Grafdigger's Cage, 3 copies of Pyroblast, a Spell Snare, a Vendilion Click, and a Crozan Grip. I think you're going to see the Spell Snare come in here most likely, answer Stoneforge Mystic. It's a little narrow past that, so perhaps it doesn't, but Stoneforge Mystic is a very juicy card to be able to counter this kind of matchup. I think the Vendilion Click, the Crozan Grip, 3 copies of Pyroblast come in here. I think the 1 copy of Ancient Grudge is fine to bring in. Jake's got to be able to win the battle over equipment.
These players will sideboard. We'll get ready for game number 2 of this little Delver mirror match. We'll talk about SCG Game Night, as we are just about through May here, so not a lot of time to get the busy bee.
Yeah, this is the May kit you see in front of you. Your store can get signed up for Game Night. We send a new kit with pins and foil tokens every single month. This is the May kit that we're winding down. We have the June kit here, which is the bunny. It's too late to get signed up for this kit, but if you want to get signed up for the July kit, head over to starcitygames.com/game night. More information or contact your Star City Games organized play representative.
Are you a fan of the piglet?
Adorable.
With the boots just mising around in the mud?
Yep, just running around, making a mess. I like it.
A big smile, though. SCG Game Night, very popular. Thank you to you guys who have played in the promotion. Couldn't keep doing these awesome things without you, and you can head over to starcitygames.com for more information about it. Find out ways to pick up the bee, the bunny, or the piglet. 2/2 boar token. I guess Curse of the Swine.
For the piglet?
Yeah, Curse of the Swine. Bang.
Curse of the Swine's a good choice.
Not sure what else makes a 2/2 boar.
I'm sure there's some stuff.
Probably. Curse of the Swine's the only one that jumps to mind.
Yeah.
Sweet card, though. Wish that card saw more play.
It got its time a little bit in Standard.
Briefly in like the mono blue devotion deck for just a little bit of time. Not a ton.
Was a draft superstar.
Accurate.
So
very good card in limited, yes.
So, it got a little bit of shine. Not everything can hit. Not everything's going to be a siege rhino.
I understand.
That's how it goes.
That's not a bad thing.
Right.
It's not a bad thing. Not everything can be a siege rhino. Thank goodness.
Was very, very good in limited and showed up a little bit in constructed is not a bad resume for a rare.
Okay. All
it's
right.
not a horrible place for it to land.
Mondello up a game here with Teamer Delver over Harlan Fear playing Jeskai Delver. Haven't seen a lot of Jeskai Delver over the past handful of months, Temur Delver is always going to be quite popular. It is one of Legacy's best decks, and Sultai Delver very powerful as well, given access to Deathrite Shaman. But as you mentioned, Jeskai Delver seems to be, as far as Delver decks are concerned, the one that's best in the mirror.
Well, you know, this deck was absolutely a consequence of Treasure Cruise, the Jeskai deck falling off the radar. You know, Stoneforge Mystic, another card that saw a lot less play when that card was going around. All the kind of value and attrition cards, Stoneforge Mystic, Hymn to Torak, and so forth, they just saw a lot less play. And so Jeskai Delver really lost a major incentive for it to exist because Stoneforge Mystic was no longer an ace against other Delver decks. They just drew too many cards, found a Fort Bolt, and killed you before you could put your Battery Skull into play.
Well, it's good to see it back. It's good to see Legacy back. It's been a little while.
It has. You know, the format is slow moving. And as a result of that, a lot of times you're going to be covering not necessarily the same tournament, but pretty close to the same tournament for months and months and months.
Yeah.
Just the nature of the format. But coming back, you know, once or twice a quarter, getting to see what's going on, catch up on all these old decks, maybe see if there's some new cards that have slipped in. That's a nice place to be.
Yeah. You're not really going to see any radical shifts in Legacy. It's just not something that really ever happens.
Even when essentially Ancestral Recall was legal X4 for a little while,
yeah.
The format, it was certainly different, but it wasn't dramatically different than we've seen before. Part of that is a function of, well, what's good with Treasure Cruise? Well, blue cantrips and counter spells and cheap spells in general. Well, those cards are already pretty potent in Legacy. They see a lot of play.
Fetch lands too.
Yeah, it's good with fetch lands, Gataxian Probe, Lightning Bolt. Those cards already get played a fair bit.
I'm doing a Gataxian Probe check. I'm not. Uh-oh.
Yep.
You might have to go to your crusade again here.
I'm going to bite my tongue because Jacob Wilson's on 0, and he's the Temur Delver expert here.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Less probes running around nowadays.
Yeah.
More stifles, though. Some people had kind of cut back on stifle a little bit, but it looks to be back.
Well, you know, that's another card where when people are treasure cruising, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to be going out of your way to do. But now, Temur Delver's probably back into its old mana denial as the primary sort of game plan, with the other elements of the deck being secondary.
Harlan going to take a mulligan here. Jake going to take a look at his hand, see if he wants to keep. Looks like he's happy enough with the 7 that he's got. So Harlan will shuffle up and look at 6 cards here. Season 2 winding down on the Open Series, as you guys do know. This is the last one here is Season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, next weekend is Modern Masters weekend. Bunch of Grand Prix taking place, one of which in Vegas. And then we've got our Season 2 Invitational at the Origins Game Fair in Columbus.
And you'll be battling in Vegas, right? You'll be there.
I will be there. It's unclear if I will be battling.
Yep, okay, fair enough.
It's like a 95% chance that I will be, but it's Vegas.
Right.
Things happen.
I'll unfortunately not be attending that event, but it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope people enjoy their Modern Masters and Grand Prix all around the world next weekend.
There will be quite a few people playing Magic in Vegas next weekend. It's very daunting. The number. There's going to be like 8,000 people there.
It's going to be huge.
That's a lot of people playing Magic.
In some respects, I am happy to be missing the event because it just seems like it's going to be really, really crowded.
Yeah.
But the first Grand Prix Vegas I was at, it felt really cool to be part of a Magic experience like that, and this one's going to be even larger. So,
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Unfortunately, I got to move. So that weekend's already boxed off for moving my stuff up to Los Angeles.
Got to be an adult.
Yep.
That's too bad. Sorry, man.
Been a good 10 years in San Diego, but got to move a little bit north.
No more Padres games?
I'll still make time occasionally, but I'll have to wait until they're playing the Dodgers.
Okay. See if Harlan's happier with his 6. He is. We started off with a Scalding Tarn. We'll see what non-basic he wants to search up. I'm going to go with the Tundra to kick things off here for game number 2.
And I think that Harlan has one of his sideboarded Rest in Peace in his hand, and I think that's a critical sideboard card in the matchup. It's easy to get hung up on things like True Name Nemesis being the power, but if Harlan can take Jake's graveyard out of the equation, Harlan gets a lot more time to get his powerful cards.
There's Delver's Secrets to start. See if this will resolve. Mondello will take a look at his hand. That's in there. Picked up a copy of Tropical Islanded. Jake on his first draw step. Going to sacrifice a Wood of Foothills. It's 19 all. And he'll search up a non-basic too. Could be Volcanic or Tropical. He'll go with Volcanic Island. Shuffle and present, and we'll see what his first spell of the game will be. Mondello does have a copy of Pyroblast in hand. He also has a Fork Bolt, little 1/1 action. Very, very powerful card against Delver Secrets. And it is resolving.
Also another answer to Stoneforge Mystic. Good against Elves.
Fear going to play Misty Rainforest past the turn back. Does not want to try to get that Rest in Peace in play just yet. Little risky leaving up the fetch land, however. It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation given Wasteland.
It is, although who knows if Jake has left in his Stifles on the draw. Often it's a play draw kind of split. Also, Harlan's hand is very land heavy, as you see, so he might be happy actually with Jake using his resources that way or leaving up mana trying to stifle something.
Fierce Draw was a Ponder. No interest in firing that off just yet, so we'll just play Volcanic Island past the turn back. A lot of patience here as Wasteland's going to go after Tundra. Pass the turn back over to Fear. Fear with a Brainstorm. He'll play a Scalding Tarn, pass the turn back, not looking to make a move. Mondello draws a copy of Nimble Mongoose. Given that Fear's hand is so land heavy, he's able to play the game like this.
Exactly, and if Jake wants to leave up mana to hold up Stifle instead of advancing his board, Harlan's probably happy with that right now. Harlan's mulliganed. He's got this Rest in Peace he'd like to resolve. He would like time to make his land drops here and get to his other expensive spells. And if Jake wants to play this waiting game, given the nature of Harlan's hand, Harlan's probably thrilled with that being the case.
It's a Brainstorm here from Mondello, a Spell Snare, a Brainstorm, and a Nimble Mongoose are the cards he's picked up. Gonna have to put a couple cards back, but that doesn't look like there's a fetch land hanging out in there. So the next two cards are the next two cards he'll be drawing. A little bit of a Brainstorm lock, as there's Nimble Mongoose. Shields are down here for Mondello in some respects. Fear will have to be cognizant of Daze and Force of Will if he'd like to make a move at all.
And you can see Jake with Stifle in hand, but at a certain point, he just has to cast something. He has to put something into play. The more and more the game goes like this, the more and more it's in Harlan's favor. Both players just sitting here making land drops, because he's the one with True Name Nemesis. He's the one with the real power.
Fear going to start off by sacrificing a Scalding Tarn. He's down to 17. There's a Tundra. And I think we'll finally see some of these manipulation spells or perhaps the Rest in Peace get cast this turn.
This seems like a great spot to try to land Rest in Peace. Jake's tapped out, so you don't have to worry about things like Spell Pierce or Spell Snare. And once it's in play, it's pretty hard for this deck to remove.
Well, there is Rest in Peace right now. A very powerful enchantment in this format. Going to slow down that Nimble Mongoose, leave it to just be a 1-1 always. And Tarmogoyf will always be a 0-1. So Rest in Peace will resolve. We're going to head back Mondello's way.
And Harlan's deck has really nothing to do with the graveyard. There's only 2 copies of Dig Through Time that are in his main deck. I suspect those have been boarded out. And so this Rest in Peace does nothing to prohibit him. And as you see Jake here with another Nimble Mongoose, 4 copies of Tarmogoyf still hanging out in the deck. This is not an easy card for him to beat.
Ponder the draw step here for Fear. So a lot of manipulation. We'll see which one he wants to fire off first. He'll start with a Ponder. Take a look at a couple of cards. Swords is 1, Tundra is 2, Misty Rainforest is 3. Feels like a shuffle to me.
Most likely. Yeah, at this point, Harlan wants to get some proactive stuff going. Jake's clock's very slow. He also can't kill these Nimble Mongooses. They're just in play. So more cantrips or creatures to put in play. That's what Harlan's in the market for.
Mystery card coming here for Fear.
You see Harlan's hand here with Brainstorm and Ponder. He's gets a lot of looks at a lot of different cards.
Gift of Match, he's going to find what he's looking for. Now, what he's looking for is debatable. Source of Plowshares, probably not it, though.
Not on this board, no. I mean, it's nice that he has an answer now to a Delver of Secrets, if Jake's able to find one. But Stoneforge Mystic, True Name Nemesis, I feel like those are the kind of cards he's playing to right now.
See if he wants to manipulate again. Cast another Ponder or a Brainstorm. Again, he has been extremely patient, and Mondello does have a lot of cards in his hand. Not willing to make a move, so Mondello will get to draw a card. He knows what it is, of course, given Brainstorm.
The thing is that Harlan's under so little pressure that he can be as patient as he wants to extract the most out of these cantrips.
This is a Brainstorm end step. That's going to resolve. Force of Will, Rest in Peace, and the Land are the cards that were drawn. Again, not very exciting stuff there.
Nope. And this may open up a window here for Jake to use these Stifles to good effect, because Harlan's going to be wanting to shuffle away some of these cards in his hand. He's got basically nothing going on here besides that Ponder. Force of Will is not really that attractive right now. A second Rest in Peace has very little. The Source of Plowshares has no targets, so Jake's going to be shuffling. Or Harlan, rather, is going to be shuffling.
And he's going to crack a fetch land on his upkeep. See if this will resolve. Mondello again does have Stifle in his hand. His Sphere goes down to 13. Looks like that's good to go. He'll get a Tundra out of his deck. So white mana, plenty. Only a single red there in Volcanic Island. Fear hoping to draw a good card this turn. His manipulation is kind of 0 for 2 at this point.
Yep. And Jake here, I guess, wanting to save these Stifles for something like Stoneforge Mystic or Batterskull Germ Token or so forth, because it looks like this game's going to be going on for a pretty long time, and Harlan's got a lot of mana to work with.
Take a draw. Copy of Umezawa's Jite. Not a bad card. Not great in this situation. It's certainly a powerful card. Here's a Ponder.
He needs the other half of the combo,
Yeah.
which is a creature.
Indeed. Will Mondello fire off his Pyroblast? No, he will not. Ponder is resolving. Council's Judgment's 1. Ponder is 2. Lightning Bolt is 3. This goes to show you just how powerful Nimble Mongoose is. Sword's no good, Bolt no good.
Yep.
Council's Judgment fine, but Council's Judgment expensive.
It's one of the major incentives to play this deck. There's some matchups, like lands, for example, where the deck is so good at locking out targetable creatures. Some of the other control decks in the format have access to things like Snapcaster Mage and Swords of Plowshares that can be really challenging on targetable creatures, but Nimble Mongoose, there's some decks that just really can't get out of this card. Now, Harlan does have answers. He can lock up the board. He has Council's Judgment and so forth, but still not the easiest card for him to answer.
He's going to give Council's Judgment a shot right now with the Misty Rainforest at the ready to try to pay for a daze. Mondello, however, does have a Spell Pierce. He will cast that.
I often, in Standard, refer to Utter End as full retail. Council's Judgment is the legacy version of full retail.
Yeah, certainly is.
Does what you wanted to do, but you're paying the full amount.
And then Legacy 3 mana is the full amount.
Yeah, 3 mana is huge. You win the game for 4, so
Yes.
3 is a lot.
Here's an attack for 2. The follow-up is a Ponder. No, Mongoose is 1. Bolt is 2. Pluto Delta is 3. Those cards are going to stay very quickly. Mondello's happy with what he found.
And Jake could really use a land drop here, and honestly, I think Lightning Bolt is something he's kind of excited about too.
I think so.
And Harlan's getting in range here,
Ponder the draw here for Fear.
and Jake may be able to just win the fight over enough of Harlan's creatures and other answers to Nimble Mongoose where the Bolt could be part of closing the game out.
Ponder's going to resolve. Let's take a look at 3 cards. Bolt Scalding Tarn.
You see a little giggle there from Harlan.
Yep. Shuffle them away. Stoneforge Mystic, Batterskull, True Nemesis, where are you? Need help. Last game he couldn't find bolts or swords. This game he's got plenty of them.
Yep. Has looked at nothing but removal. The second Rest in Peace laughing at him right now.
Let's see what this mystery card is.
And if you're Harlan, you're worried even if you draw these cards, well, they're probably not resolving. Because Jake's sitting there with 6 or 7 cards in his hand and some mana available. He can probably counter True Nemesis or something similar if you find it.
Here's Brainstorm. That one's going to resolve. 3 cards coming. A Ponder, a Brainstorm, and a Delver of Secrets. Now, that's a little bit more real. You don't hate that. I think that Rest in Peace can go away. That Swords probably can too.
Exactly. I mean, those are real cards, and Harlan gets to shuffle away some of the trash in his hand right now.
Obviously, this is the power of Brainstorm. Get that trash out of here. Find some goods. Fear's life total is still relatively high at 11. So he's got some time to work with. Those Nimble Mongooses are never going to grow. Going to sacrifice Misty Rainforest. See if this resolves. Mondello looks like he's going to use that Stifle. He's going to start by sacrificing a Polluted Delta.
And I really like this Stifle here from Jake because Harlan has been doing nothing for a while. He's clearly fumbling around a little bit. So whatever he put back is bad, almost certainly. So I like trying to Brainstorm lock him here. You didn't see him fight over the first fetch lane because Harlan had enough mana, but given how the last couple turns have gone, it seems like the top 2 cards of Harlan's deck have got to be bad.
Just been a lot of spinning of his tires.
Yeah, you see him been doing nothing, basically.
Delver of Secrets. That's going to resolve. Mondello will untap. It's time for him to draw. He knows what's on top of his deck. Actually, no, he doesn't because he sacrificed Polluted Delta. He did previously. Picked up a copy. It looks like a Delver of Secrets. Gonna use Pyroblast to take care of the Delver that Harlan has. Clear the way for the Geese. Get in there. Down to 8.
You've been very fluid with your goose, mongoose plurals.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thank you very much. A lot of practice.
Takes his craft seriously,
I do.
folks.
This is no joke. Sylvan Library. The ugly Sylvan Library.
Are you kidding me? That's the classic.
It's ugly. Disgusting.
It came out of a Legends booster. Are you kidding me?
Looks like it was found underneath a rug.
That's
Here's
how
a
those
ponder.
cards look.
Rest in peace. Lightning Bolt. Wasteland. Nice.
Another shuffle coming.
Yep. It's very strange. This one of the things that makes Legacy great. In a normal game, Harlan would be thrilled to see those cards off of Ponders because those are all high impact cards in the matchup. Given the current situation, those cards are horrible.
Yep.
Truly terrible cards to find.
Really, only his creatures matter. His creatures are really good. Even Stoneforge Mystic, a 1/2 is very good against 1/1s.
It's great on this board.
But all of his spot removal, and he's probably boarded in more. He's got 8 in his main deck. His counter spells, if they're still in the deck, they don't do anything right now.
Mystery card. It's white. It's a 1/2. It's Stoneforge Mystic. And that's game, boys. A 1/2 is unbelievable right now. If it couldn't search, it would be awesome.
Yep.
But it's going to search all right.
Welcome to Moat.
Yep.
Now, I mean, you know, Harlan's got to hope it's able to stay in play for a turn. If it gets tagged with a lightning bolt here, he's back in the same spot. But if Jake is just on creatures or cantrips or graveyard-centric stuff, this 1/2 may be able to stabilize the game.
Sylvan Library will trigger. So Jake gets to take a look at a couple of cards. Two Tarmogoyfs and a Stifle.
Stifle is not terrible in this spot. It gives him, you know, at least maybe another turn here. Jake may have to just take all 3 of these cards because he needs to power through.
Yeah.
He needs to find Lightning Bolt. He's got 18 life, and he may just need to say, okay, whatever 3 cards, I had to take them because I just need to give myself the most looks and answer to Stoneforge Mystic or the Batterskull.
You can always Stifle that living weapon trigger.
Exactly.
For
So
Batterskull.
Stifle's not horrible here, but I think Jake just needs to burn through cards in the hopes of finding an answer to Stoneforge Mystic.
Looks like he did burn through some cards. Paid all that life. Now a Brainstorm. Let's take a look at 3 more cards. See if he can find an answer. Stifle is 1. Wasteland is 2. Lightning Bolt is 3.
There you go. I mean, those are the cards you want, too. It's an answer to Stoneforge Mystic, and it's a strip mine there for 1 land, so Batterskull can't be hard cast. It's a good set of cards here for Jake to find.
So he wants to lead out. He'll start by playing Wasteland. Now he'll go with the Bolt. This is to play around Spell Pierce. This is going to work out great. Harlan might Brainstorm in response. Heck, he might even Swords to Plowshares that thing in response. Might need a little bit of life.
Well, I guess with the Brainstorm here, he has to ask himself, what are the odds that I Brainstorm into blue card plus Force of Will, and that it's good?
Yep.
Because if the odds are extremely low, he may be better served just using it next turn.
He's going to Sword his own creature. And a life could be a big deal here. There's Wasteland to take care of the Volcanic Islands. Now Harlan's only got blue and white mana, no red, but given his hand, that's okay. Here come the Mongoose. Now there's a Delver to follow up.
Max punishment for the Swords to Plowshares play.
Indeed. Volcanic Island is the draw. That one doesn't matter all that much, so here comes Brainstorm. Take a look at 3 of them.
And I understand the desire to Swords there because Harlan goes up to 7. And when Jake is hitting in increments of 2, going to an odd life total could represent a full turn.
Yep.
But the way this whole thing played out, Harlan would much rather have the Swords to Plowshares in hand.
Well, Harlan found a good card. He found a Treaty Nemesis. And I know he doesn't want to play in a daze, but at the same time, the clock is a ticking.
Yep.
Gotta get him moving. And I think he knows that. So he's going to sacrifice the Misty Rainforest, get himself a Volcanic Island. He's going to probably slam down that Treaty Nemesis, hope it resolves. And with any luck, he can equip a GT to it next turn.
Yep. It's a way to get this game swung around.
This will also put a roadblock on those Nimble Mongooses that are in play. Untap and draw Will Mondello. But what that means is that he did not get to look with his Delver, but he knew the top card of his deck already.
Yep.
It was a Tarmogoyf.
mean, Jake can just hang out here for a little bit. You know, he's got some stifles. He can fight over equipment for a little while and hope that he can flip over this Delver and squeeze out the last couple points. He's also got Spell Snare in hand if Harlan plays Umezawa's Jitte.
Well, Harlan's going to play it. And Jake is going to go a reaching. There's a Spell Snare. Now, Harlan's draw for the turn was Flusterstorm. And given the stack, Flusterstorm is not bad. So he's going to Flusterstorm Spell Snare, excuse me. Which would mean that Jake would have to pay 3 mana for Spell Snare to resolve on the Umezawa's Jitte. But Jake does have a Stifle here, so now the stack gets really interesting because Jake does have a Stifle for the Storm trigger.
Yeah, he can stifle the Storm trigger and then Flusterstorms for 1, and then he has a mana left over.
Yep. Now, does he see that interaction? That's the question. Is he willing to pull the trigger on that interaction as well? There is Stifle for the Storm trigger. He's all right. Now I'll pay the 1 for Flusterstorms. Now my Spell Snare resolves on the Umezawa's Jitte.
Good sequence here for Jake.
Yep. Check with Delver. We know it's flipping. Now Sylvan Library. Lightning Bolt is one of the cards. That's going to be his draw. Here's an attack for 3. He wants to get in with everybody. No Mongoose will die. There's a Lightning Bolt to go upstairs, and that is going to do it. Jake Mondello is going to win this game and match here over Harlan Fear, 2-0. Teamer Delver will take care of Jeskai Delver. Some kind of weird draws there for Harlan. I think the matchup is favorable for him, but in that particular game, Nimble Mongoose showed that it's still powerful when Rest in Peace is in play.
It's interesting because, if you imagine that Harlan loses there, it's on a short game where he gets wastelanded and stifled a bunch and can't get anything